emotional roller coaster to follow, but I'll do my best. Try and make it a little more light-hearted. So before I undertake the customary duty of giving Richard an uncomfortable few minutes, let me reiterate Richard's point about the bridesmaids. I'm sure you all agree they look absolutely fantastic today. They've helped really make today run as smoothly as it possibly could, and they've really done you proud. I'm sure you agree, Ross. As for the bride, I completely concur. You look fantastic. Even with the teary eyes, you're still looking very nice. So I'd like to start with a bit of wedding etiquette. Basically, if we could all avoid acting like the groom, I think we should be in for a good night. Specifically, no snorting vodka and being sick in the front garden, as Rich did at Rossie's 21st birthday. And absolutely no parading around with women's underwear on our heads, as Rich did at Ali's wedding. One further it's going to go on like this. One further dubious thank you I have to make is to Richard today. Thank him for making me his best man. It's a bit of a dubious honour. It's a bit like being asked to sleep with the Queen. A great honour, but nobody really wants to do it. Joking aside, I'm lucky enough to have not only Rich, but Ros as well amongst my best friends in the world. Another duty of the best man is to pass on good wishes of people who could not be here today. As Rich alluded to, and we all know, he sadly lost his father Neil almost 3 years ago. I'm sure that while he can't be with you today, he's immensely proud and looking down at you, and be so pleased to have met the woman of your dreams. As I alluded to, it's a great honour to be not your best man, but also to represent your parents on this special occasion. I couldn't ask for two better friends, and I'm sure you'd agree that your parents have done you proud today as well. Could I ask you to be upstanding again and raise a toast to the parents of the bride and groom?
Parents. Bride and groom, parents.
Well done.
How are we looking for time, Dave? Nicole's got 45 minutes.
Keep going. It ends on the toast, just to clarify.
I'd also like to thank the ushers today. Many of you will be thinking it was a bit strange for Rich to ask for so many people to help him today. However, I know he had a real dilemma on his hands, working out who could do the hugely difficult task of getting people to sit in the right place in church. What's more, after the stag do, where Hugh managed to miss the train to Leeds due to being drunk from the night before, apparently the 48-hour drinking session I arranged wasn't enough for him, and Dave spent the whole weekend looking for prospective wives for himself, I think Rich felt safety in numbers was the best bet. So is everybody having a good time?
Yes.
Don't worry, I will try and keep this short. I think you've got a bit longer than I. Basically, what it was is when researching the contents of a best man speech, I read that it shouldn't take any longer than it takes the groom to make love. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you I'm only joking. The real reason I'm going to keep it short today is because of Stu. Are you with us today, Stu? Oh, he's still awake. That's brilliant. For those of you who weren't on the stag do, Stu decided to turn up to Dublin on the second night of the stag do, may I add, and spent the whole 12 of his 14 hours in Dublin asleep. So it's good that he's still with us today. So what can you say about a man with a plethora of fantastic attributes? Athletic, intelligent, charming, and starting to climb the ladder in his career of choice. But that's plenty about me. What I'm ready to do is clear up. That was bad. I stole that. So before telling any stories about Rich, I thought it would be best to get Rosie's clearance on what I could say. Unfortunately, I only thought to do this about 10 minutes ago when she gave me my do's and don'ts. She said, don't talk about ex-girlfriends, don't tell any risque jokes, don't swear, don't lie, and do tell mostly positive stories about Rich. Unfortunately, I'd scripted this a long time ago, it's far too late. So many of you will know, Rich is a massive sports fan, an all-round football fan, an all-round sports fanatic. So why he arranged his wedding on the second weekend of the football season, when Liverpool playing Arsenal, is anyone's guess. But he's not only a big fan of the game, but an excellent player too. But whilst most great defenders pride themselves on clean sheets, Rich spent his childhood going for the most red cards. As a youngster, this bad behaviour didn't only stretch to the football pitch, but also while he was off it. On one occasion, when ball boying for Sheffield United, he got in a tussle with the then Coventry City goalkeeper, Stephen Bywater. With the score at 1-1, Rich got the ball and threw it straight back to Bywater as Sheffield United were pushing for the win, Coventry having had a man sent off. The keeper pretended to drop it and kick it away, which angered not only the fans and the players, but Rich as well. Sheffield went on to score in the 90th minute. The next time Rich got the ball, he held it behind his back so the keeper couldn't get it. The keeper marched over to him and grabbed him by the neck, but Rich still didn't let go. The story even made the Yorkshire Post. Last summer, this unsporting behaviour even stretched to the golf course, one of the last remaining bastions of true etiquette. Anything from shots not being counted because they were played out of the rough, to about 8 balls off the green until one finally went down the fairway. Rich never seemed to end up with a card representing the way he hacked it round that course. Ros joined us on a few occasions at Skelton Golf Course, making for a very interesting game. On one particular occasion, Richard borrowed some clubs from a close friend of Chris's. We got to the second hole where Ros took an almighty swing at the ball and topped it about 4 yards. Instead of being supportive, which he claims he will be for the rest of their marriage, Rich creased himself. He then followed that up with a ball that went straight into the overgrown rough. It wasn't a brilliant start either. A few shots later, and Ros still hadn't made it more than around about 50 yards. Another huge swing and she diverted her ball into the same field that Rich's first ball had gone into. He decided he was going to get it back because it had only just gone 5 yards in or so he leaned over with his 5-iron in hand trying to smack it back. It must be pointed out at this point that these golf clubs have been cherished for many a year, beautiful and well looked after. Instead of the ball coming flying back towards us though, one last swing and the 5-iron club head shot off the club end and towards us. I don't know how he was going to tell Chris about this. A few holes later, Rich was teeing off in the par 3 4th. After a number of balls had gone nowhere near the green, he smacked another one straight into the trees, followed very closely by his 9-iron. As the club hit the fairway, off came another club head. Both the 9 and 5-iron were laid to rest in peace in the bushes of Skelton Golf Course, but it had been made very clear to me I should never repeat this story to Chris. I think it's too late now. Perhaps it's just his sporting brain knowing how to take advantage of a good situation. In 2009, Rich ran the Great North Run as a last-minute replacement for Dee, finishing a fantastic time of just under 1 hour and 20 minutes. He was in the top few percent of the 50,000 plus runners. A few weeks later, a trophy dropped through the letterbox of the Madrick residents. As Rich had been registered as D, he'd been crowned the top athlete in the female 40 plus class. sorry to give you a range. I must add, the ever honest Mrs. Madrick decided that she should send the trophy back with a note explaining exactly what had happened. I also ran the Great North Run that year, albeit in a slightly slower time. I can give some insight into how Rich managed to achieve this fantastic time. Stuck in the back zone as Dee has estimated a more modest time than Rich was expecting, he was concerned all the slow people would get in his way to achieving the time he was hoping for. To this day, nobody knows how Rich managed to sneak into the front orange zone, until now. Once Tim had gone to finish his warm-ups, Rich said he was going to complete his warm-ups before heading right to the back to start the race, only to reveal to me what was hiding under his jacket. He had manufactured his own race number on Word, complete with the sponsorship info and all that. Clearly not expecting fraudulent athletes. A quick flash of the guy checking, and he was in the front box. On course to be the female champion 2009. You may also know that Richard. You may know Rich has always liked his fashionable clothes. He recently said to me though that he hates brands that plaster their logos all over them. Literally a few days later, when I popped around to see the arse for a cup of tea, Rich answered the door, tip to toe in Hollister gear, including Hollister branded all over his chest. The irony wasn't lost. As a lad, Rich had to find a way to fund these expensive tastes. For those of you that know me, I've always had a reputation for being a bit of a Del boy. What you may not know is Rich is also just as bad. He always used to keep the tags from all his designer clothes, which I thought was a memento. However, a few years down the line, strapped for a bit of cash, out popped these mementos. A little bit of eBay wizardry later, and a brand new with tags G-Star hoodie was on its way to an Another example of our Rich's budding entrepreneurial skills came as Shipton Village stores decided it was no longer offering a paper delivery service. Instead of just accepting he'd be losing his £450 a year job, Rich decided to take over as Chief Executive of Shipton Postal Services. He hired some cheap labour from year 7 to run around and do his dirty work, whilst taxing their Christmas tip too. Of course, since Roz has come on the scene, Rich has calmed down a lot. And as for the best, she has placed her calming influence upon him. Gone are the days of irrational anger, and some might even argue his masculinity has wavered somewhat too. A quick flick through, for instance, Rich's recent Facebook statuses finds reference to Jedward competing in the Eurovision Song Contest, going salsa dancing, living for the X Factor, and loving Hollyoaks. But hold for it, the piece de resistance must be looking forward to a night snuggled in with Rosie watching Sex and the City 2. Wrapping a hockey stick around Tom Cad's neck, a long distant memory. However, even with Rosie's influence, Rich is still let loose now and again, just with the added problem that he's now a massive lightweight, which you'll probably see later on. After a recent night out when we were getting our suits fitted for today, I was staying at Rich's house, and around 1 AM we got home after a relatively quiet night. I just got into bed when I heard Roz screaming, "Simon, get down here, you'll have to help." Worried by the anxiety in her voice, I hurried down to see what on earth was going on. Quite quickly, I got dressed first and then went down to see what was going on. Only to find Rich hunched over the toilet spewing his guts up. No change there. Roz warned me that if we didn't take it easy on Rich on the stag do, this is exactly what would happen. Instead of listening though, I went about taking photos and videos so I could take them the next morning. To be fair, Rich did do fairly well on the stag do. Perhaps because I was staying in the same room as him on both nights, I took it quite easy on him. I hope you repay the favour one day.
Not what happened to me that night.
We're not talking about that, I told you. One of my favourite memories of the stag do though has to be Rich after an all-day drinking session at the cricket, trying to help out a fellow drunk in a club. The guy was practically unconscious on his feet, but Rich was persistent in his efforts to help this guy out. The bewilderment on the poor bloke's face when he actually came to find Rich, 6 foot Rich, in a blue shell suit and multicoloured wig was an absolute picture. Wherever that guy ended up that night, he must have had some funny memories the next day. You'll be pleased to hear I'm nearly coming to the end of this speech now. Well, if you've got the time that's close to it anyway. Can I just ask the bride and groom to stand up a minute? Rich, can you both put your hands up, and Rich, can you place your hand on top of Rosie's? On a more serious note, it's been a great privilege representing you today, and I hope I haven't let you down. Rich is my best friend, and has always been there for me whenever I've needed him. I know how much Roz means to him, and he will always be there for her. Rich idolises Roz and will make a fantastic husband. You can both lower your arms now and sit down. I just wanted to give Rich the opportunity to have the upper hand in your marriage for the first time.
Must have googled that one.
In conclusion, I've spent since Rich asked me to be his best man, being a bit nervous about this speech. But only I think today when I stood next to him in the church and Rosie came down the aisle did it hit me what it really means. Nobody else could stand where I am right now and feel more proud and honoured to represent you both on this most important day of your lives. On behalf of the whole wedding party, I'd like to thank you for coming and sharing this fantastic occasion. And can you please join me in raising a toast to Mr. and Mrs. Carrick, to the happy couple.
Mrs. Carrick.
We stop. And we stop. We stop.
Stop. Results.